Can I start? Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good to see those of you here, and we also feel the presence of those of you joining us on the live stream tonight. Going to ask Ruth if you would light the Shabbat candles for us, Ruth, and please join us on page 20.
We read responsively on the bottom of page 20. On this day, we would see the world in a new light. On this day, we would add new spirit to our lives.
On this day, we would taste a new time of peace. We would rest from desire, from gain, and vision for things.
We would raise our eyes to look beyond time and space toward eternity. Oh, may we come to see the world in a new light. As it is written, let a new light shine upon Zion, and may it be our blessing to see its splendor. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu b'ad l'pnei shel Shabbat.
Thank you, Ruth. And we'll continue on page 29, the meaning of Shabbat. The meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week, we live under the tyranny of things of space. On Shabbat, we try to become attuned to holiness in time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. And let's welcome Shabbat, L'cha Dodi, on page 29. L'cha Dodi Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat L'kavela, L'cha Dodi Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat L'kavela. Shamo v'zechor divur echad, Ishvianu Anucha, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem tiferet yitila. L'cha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat mikavela. L'cha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat mikavela. Likrat Shabbat l'chunecha, Tihi mikol habrana, Me'rosh miden l'chusufa, Sof ma'aseh l'chashata tila. L'cha likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat mikavela. L'cha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat mikavela. Yitorei, Yaorei, Uri, Uri, Shirei, L'cha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat mikavela. L'cha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat mikavela. Uri v'shalom ateret kala, Gam v'sukkah u'v'tosh shola, Toch emunei hamsegula, Boi kala. L'cha Dodi 44, how can we sing? We read responsively, how can I sing of day and night when it is God who formed them?
How can I see heaven and earth when it is God who created them?
How can I sing of mountains and hills when it is God who planted them?
How can I sing of seas and deserts when it is God who got them?
And how can I sing of earth and its fullness when it is God who bade them be?
I shall sing to God who fashioned all and is beyond all. It is to God I shall sing.
Turn to the Shema on page 36.
Lai la la lai 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 la la lai 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 la la lai lai la la lai 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 la la lai lai la la lai lai Baruch et Adonai Hamevora
Continuing with Bet on page 37, God of all the world, how insignificant we are in your sight and how minute in your presence. You are creator of a universe so vast that not the effort to conceive it overwhelms the mind. Our mightiest telescopes scan, but can but a corner of it. The rays of light that reach us from distant galaxies began their journey long before we came to be. Counted from first creation, the earth we live on was born but yesterday, and we made our appearance on it only a moment ago.
When we consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have established, what is humanity that you are mindful of us? What are mortals that you consider us?
Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Haralim. Brad, can I ask you to read the middle of page 38? Unending is your love.
Unending is your love for your people, the house of Israel. Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts have you taught us.
Therefore, our eternal God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and rejoice in your Torah and mitzvot forever.
Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are life and the length of our days.
Your love shall never depart from our hearts. We praise you, eternal one, who loves your people. On page 40, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
On page 42, you can be seated, and Chris, I'll ask you to read responsively Bet. at the bottom of the page.
I, Miriam, stand in the sea and turn to face the desert, stretching endless and still.
My arms reach for the sky, and I want to sing the song present beside me.
My mouth open, I stop. Where are the words? Where the melody? In a moment of panic, my vision goes blank. Can I take a step without knowing the destination? Will I falter? Will I fall? Will the ground sink away from under me?
The songs still and fall. How can I sing?
To take the first step, to sing a new song, is to close one's eyes and dive into waters. For a moment knowing nothing, risking all, but then to discover the waters are friendly, the ground is firm, and the song rises again. Last week, Cantor Wunsch spoke about Miriam's song and made the point that we really didn't know the mood, how she felt. We always sing a very joyous version of it, and Cantor Wunsch had introduced us to a more reflective version. And I thought tonight I would like to share a version that I remember from when I grew up in Johannesburg, where I was born. It was the one that we used to sing in the synagogue that I had my bar mitzvah. It's much more of a sort of a wondrous moment as Miriam came through, as the Jews came through the Reed Sea, with the waves then closing behind them and drowning their captors. So I'm going to read it. I'm going to chant it and read it in Hebrew and English, just to sort of give the context of this slightly different version. It goes like this: Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedah b'kodesh, nora tehilo osefele. Who is like you, Adonai, among the gods that are worshipped? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, doing wonders? Malachutecha rachu v'necha, hokaya yam lifnei Moshe, ze elianu, anu v'amru. Your children saw your saving power as the sea of reeds parted. This is my God. They responded, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Adonai will reign forever and ever. As you redeemed Israel and saved us from arms stronger than our own, so may you redeem all of us who are still oppressed and persecuted. We praise you, Eternal One, the Redeemer of Israel. And if we could read together at 45, the hidden light. And God said, let there be light. The first light made before the sun and stars. God showed it to David, who burst into song. This is the light Moses saw on Sinai. At the creation, the universe from end to end radiated light, but it was withdrawn. And now it is stored away for the righteous until all the worlds will be in harmony again. And all will be united and whole. But until this future world is established, this light, coming out of darkness and formed by the most secret, is hidden. Light is so for the righteous. But this light, if this light were to vanish, the world could not exist. Rather, every instant the Torah is studied and lived, God sends a slender ray from that hidden light to bring life to the world. Thus, the act of creation is renewed each day. And we'll continue on page 49. The tapestry of our Jewish heritage. We read responsibly, the strength of a piece of cloth is in the threads of which the whole is woven. The tapestry of our Jewish heritage has in it threads of many colors, from bright gold to somber black. With its colors echoing the events of the time, this tapestry was begun many thousands of years ago. Its weaving will continue for the many thousands of years to come.
The first strand slid
Through the fingers of Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel. Their thread was strong, their colors were brilliant. And on page 49, Betsy Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalma divrei chirutei v'yamlich mal chirutei v'chayei chon uv'yomei chon uv'chayei l'chol beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, uv'izman kariv v'yimru. Amen. Yehesh mei Rabbah v'ara ve'al me'almaya yitbarach yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'a ve'yitroman ve'yitnaseh ve'yithada ve'yithaleh ve'yithalal shemei t'kodeshav Le'elani kol brichata v'shirata tushbechata v'nehemata damiran b'yalma ve'yimeru. Amen. And we go turn to the Amidah. Adonai Svatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Open my lips, Eternal One, so that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Sarah Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Rivka Elohei Yaakov Elohei Rachel, Ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagivol, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'Konei Hakol, Ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot Be'emot, U'Mevi Gula Livnei B'neihem, Le'man Shemo Yahava Melech Ozer Mashiach Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Elam Adonai B'chayei HaKol Atah Rav L'Hoshia V'chochel chayim v'chesed, v'chayei hakol v'rachamim rabim, tzomech noflim, v'rofei cholim, u'matir asurim, u'mekayei gimnato, l'shenei afar, mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, u'mito melach, Melech men mitu machayei u'matmiach Yeshua v'nemanata l'chayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai b'chayei hakol Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh v'koshim b'chol yom hallelujah selah Selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who strive to be holy declare your glory day by day. We praise you, Eternal One, the Holy God. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. O God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like the softness of moonlight, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed. And we, clay, touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaiming wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Blessed is the Eternal One, the Holy God. And where has the week vanished on page 55? Where has this week vanished? It is lost forever. Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished.
Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom?
On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burden that must return. On this day, Shabbat abide. And now, Shabbat has come. Can it help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time? Can it contain the retreat of the hours and days from the grasp of a frantic life? When all days abandon me, Shabbat abide.
Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat abide.
And let us pause for a moment of silent prayer. Oseh Shalom Mimramav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'al Kol Bnei Adam, B'meru Amen. May the one who causes peace to reign in the high heavens, let peace descend on us, on all Israel, and on all the world. And let us say Amen. And at this point, Amen. And at this point, I'm going to invite Brad Bass to deliver the Devar Torah.
Thank you, John. Shabbat Shalom, L'Kulam, both here and on the live stream. We just read in the Amidah, this place was filled with awe, and we did not know it. A phrase perhaps tinged with regret. How do we turn that around? How do we know it? The question I'd like you to think about is actually this one. How does God speak to you? It's really the same question. And I want you to notice something. I didn't say us, plural. I said you. I didn't say why God speaks to you. I didn't ask what God says to you. I asked how God speaks to you. I think this Parsha, Truma, which is often interpreted as a set of instructions that God gives to Moses for the construction of a portable sanctuary and an ark to hold the Ten Commandments, helps us to answer this question. Excuse me. just going to remove my mask while I give the Devar Torah. I think we'll make it a little bit clearer. The Parsha starts with the phrase, V'asu li mikdash v'shahanti b'tocham. God is speaking to Moses, and he's telling Moses, the people shall make me a sanctuary, and I will dwell in their midst. Now at this point, you might stop and ask yourself, why does the all-powerful, infinite God, or Hashem, need something that is relatively small, closed up, in order to be among us? Now there are a few different ways to look at this question. In fact, this Parsha is rich in possible lenses. We could take an economic perspective, a philosophical, a Kabbalistic perspective. We could look at physics and even science fiction. For example, when I was in high school, I caught a story about how some people tried to build the ark. Now, it doesn't seem that complicated. It's a wooden box, cover the outside in gold, cover the inside in gold, right? Gold, wood, gold. They couldn't finish it. It was generating too much energy. In fact, it was a battery. And as a high school student, I thought, well, this is really cool. The ark is this battery. It generates energy. But then you have to stop and think, why would God be giving us a battery? I'm not going to explore that question. I will leave it to you. Take it home with you. Homework. The Parsha also lends itself to an economics discussion. We could focus on the objects used in the tabernacle, in the Mikdash, and the different ways that value can be affixed to an object. We could start with Adam Smith, go to Karl Marx, end with Jean Baudrillard. And while it's an interesting discussion, I'm not going in that direction either. Now, those of you who follow Star Trek, I'm one of those people, might remember the 5th movie, The Final Frontier, the only one directed by William Shatner. This is a spoiler if you haven't seen the movie. The Enterprise is actually hijacked and finally finds itself in the center of our galaxy, and there's a planet there, and this planet is thought to be the Garden of Eden. And in this movie, the Garden of Eden story is ubiquitous across the solar system. All the Star Trek species, the Romulans, the Vulcans, the Klingons, they all have a story about something like the Garden of Eden, where we were exiled. On that planet, there's a planet in the middle of the galaxy, and on that planet they find an alien being who they think is God, and who kind of leads them to believe that. And God says to them, hey, do you guys have a starship so I can spread my word throughout the universe? And finally, Captain Kirk says, excuse me. And the alien keeps on talking. Kirk says, excuse me, why does God need a starship? This echoes a question I asked at the very beginning. Why does an infinite, all-powerful being need a small physical structure, even one that travels at warp 5? And I'm going to take a look at this question, but in a different way, not the way that Captain Kirk intended it. First, an assumption, but not my assumption, a rabbinical assumption, and that is that the Torah is timeless. How do we know it's timeless? Where does this assumption come from? Well, there's a second assumption underneath the first one, and that is we assume the Torah existed before creation. In fact, it is the blueprint for creation. This is not my idea. It's also a rabbinical idea. It's well within standard Kabbalah. I'm not going to explore this idea, but if it interests you, I would direct you to a book that should be coming out soon by a Rabbi Toledano, he's a physicist and a rabbi exploring this question, or you can listen to him talk about it on his episode on the Jewish Philosophy podcast. Now, back to this Parsha. If you start reading it, the instructions to Moses begin in the plural. God is telling Moses, the people shall do this. But then it switches. And now God says to Moses, V'hakemota et hamishkan kamishpato. You, in the singular, shall build the Mishkan according to its laws. In the singular. Basically, after God says the people will build it, all the instructions are in the singular, not in the plural. Now you could say, well, that's because he's talking to Moses. Of course, God is going to address Moses like that and say, okay, Moses, you, Moses, are accountable for building this sanctuary. But remember my assumption, the Torah is timeless. So who is the you that is being addressed? The you is us as individuals. It's us now, it was us 50 years ago, it's us 50 years in the future, it's us. Does that mean that you, as an individual, this week, have to build the Mishkan according to the directions in the Parsha? If you answer yes, I hope you have lots of gold, acacia wood, and goat's hair lying around your garage because you're going to need it. But I want to suggest an alternative meaning. In the first phrase, I said, Asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. B'tocham is usually translated as among them. I will dwell among them, b'tocham. But all translation is only an interpretation, and Hebrew is somewhat ambiguous. B'tocham could also be translated or interpreted to mean within them, literally within the bodies of the people, literally within each person. So now this command changes. It's now would say the people will make a sanctuary for God within themselves. So when Moses is asked to establish the sanctuary, the Mishkan, that means that we now are being asked to establish a dwelling place for God within us. And how we do that is where I'm going to get to in a little bit. But I want to explore one other word in that phrase. The phrase Asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. The second phrase, V'hakemota et hamishkan kemishpota. And I'm hoping you heard the similarity between v'shachanti and mishkan. I'm going to throw a third word in there, Shekhinah, which we translate as the presence of God. Shekhinah, Mishkan, Shachanti, they're all the same word. The same three letters make up each word. So now we might interpret this command not to build a sanctuary in a fixed place, but to build a sanctuary so I can make my presence felt within you. In other words, make a space for God's presence within you. And the second phrase becomes you, the individual you, will establish my sanctuary according to its commandments, is now changed to you will raise, the word v'hakemotah can be interpreted that way, you will raise my presence within you. So, Captain Kirk, God does not need a starship to spread Torah through the physical universe. God needs a place within us. Now, what does it mean to have God within us? A very simple interpretation is it means we follow the commandments. I want to take some other interpretations. I think we can all accept that. So I'm going to go to Leonard Cohen. Leonard Cohen wrote this song, Born in Chains, probably maybe about 10 years ago. I'm going to quote from that song a few lines. Blessed is the name be blessed, written on my heart in burning letters. But then you showed me where you had been wounded, in every atom broken is the name. I'll repeat the last line. In every atom broken is the name. Making a place for the Shekhinah is making a place for repairing God's name down to the smallest of particles. Essentially, tikkun olam. But starting at the basis of the physical universe. A third way, I'm going to refer to the poet William Blake, and I'm going to paraphrase him when he said, if you can see the infinite in all things, you can see God. If you can see the infinite in all things, you can see God. And finally, a fourth possibility for what it means to make a place for God's presence in you is to be open to the possibility of ongoing revelation. Those little sparks of insight that come to you when you are studying a text, or really any time you're stuck on a problem and the solution just appears. Now remember, 2 weeks ago, God tried a direct revelation from the mountaintop amidst the thunder and lightning. And guess what? It almost killed us. And we said to Moses, we don't want that anymore. We don't want that type of communication with God. So God creates an alternative and asks us to create a place for God, for God's presence directly within ourselves, so we can see the world the way that God sees, hears, smells, and touches the world. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. That was very, very thoughtful. Yes. Beautiful interpretation. And I'd now like to turn to page 133 for the Mishaberach. And may the one who blessed the patriarchs and matriarchs of our people also bless and heal all those who require healing. And we think particularly of members of our broader communities, Dylan Cockhill, Brian Bogosh, Sharon Wakefield, Janet Brown, Leah Haller, Harry Richter, Francis Hernick, Wilfred Walker, Shirley Herman, Rick Valentine, Marlene Friedman, Jack Kudlatz, Suzanne Sher-Simpson, Bernie McLennan, Jill Rich, Mr. Nicola Pruetti, Eliyahu Ben Yitzchak Vasara, Rebecca Bardwell, Philip Shepherd, Carl Katz, Nicole Hansen, Raina Rowan, Gilan Neruzzi, Madeline Kitson, Kathy Kitson, Dee Hickey, Lorraine DaCosta, Adela Zur, Al Lofsky, Evelyn Tyndall, Amanda Schenk, Daniel Black, Jean Elizabeth Pitt, Shmuel Ben Devorah, Pauline Portnoy, Karen Smith, Francis Fontaine, and Doreen Court. May the Holy Blessed One treat them with compassion. May the Shekinah rest with them, so that they may be restored to wholeness, both in body and in soul. And let us say Amen. And as I look your way, if there's anyone to add to the list, please say so out loud. Mi shebeirach avoteinu b'kol habracha le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu v'kol habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And for the state of Israel on page 135, Sur Yisrael v'lo aleinu, Rock and Redeemer of Israel, place your blessing upon the state of Israel, the realization of our hope for Jewish homeland. Send your light and your truth to all its inhabitants. Spread over them the shelter of your peace. bestow insight upon its leaders, judges, and representatives, that they may pursue justice, freedom, and integrity. Visit blessing upon all the people of Israel, wherever we dwell. Plant the life of Zion into our hearts, that our footsteps may reach to walk upon its soil. And may the vision of your prophet Isaiah soon be fulfilled. For Torah shall come forth from Zion, and God's grove from Jerusalem. And let us say, Amen. And if we can turn to page 149 for the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shayach l'adon hakol, l'teitula yotzei reshit, aseh shamchel et shemo, v'gor aleinu v'amlik malchuto, v'anachnu borim, u'mishtachavim Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu.
Please be seated as we turn to page 152. The eye that blinks. Human beings do not live forever. We live less than the time it takes to blink an eye if we measure our eyes against eternity. So it may be asked, what value is there to a human life? There is so much pain in the world. What does it mean to have to suffer so much if our lives are nothing more than the blink of eyes? I learned a long time ago that a blink of an eye in itself is nothing, but the eye that blinks, that is something. A span of life is nothing, but the person who lives that span is something. We can fill that tiny span with meaning, so its quality is immeasurable. Through its quantity, may be insignificant. We must fill life with meaning. Meaning is not automatically given to that. And we turn to the mourner's Kaddish. We remember, following Yortzeit, Mary Tish, grandmother of Shirley Herman, great-grandmother of Mark and Laura, Harold Pollock, uncle of Rabbi Audrey Pollock, and Phil Subeck, great-uncle of Seth, Gil, and Rachel, brother-in-law of Rosalind Pollock. Anne Gottlieb, cousin of Linda Hannon, Stephen Hannon, cousin of Jerry, Mordechai Lucia, nephew of Judith Tamari, Yaffa Bar Hadass, cousin of Judith Tamari, Mendel Davidson, grandfather of Robin Sorotis, Harry Mursky, uncle of Cheryl Englander, Naomi Judith Rose, wife of Stan Sinai, dear friend of Linda Sage Alexander, David Roloff, grandfather of Diana Farber, Dawn Trover, niece of Harold and Pauline Portnoy and Yvonne Wilson, Peter Dutton, husband of Margaret, Ella Raphael, mother of Beatrice Rosmarin, grandmother of Nicole Kinney, Chantal Genesek, and Danielle Allaire, Trevor Turner, brother of Juanita Brown and brother-in-law of Horace, Mel Alter, father of Laurie Levine, Siegfried Newman, father of Elfie Brozat, Morris Dombrowski, grandfather of Raina Rowan and Lila Lehman, and Henry Brezza, father of David, grandfather of Lindsay and Jordan. Please stand if you're observing Yortzeit from this list. And if anyone else is observing Yortzeit this week, we'd like to state your relative's name. Please stand and say their names as I look in your direction. And at the end of the first year of the war in Ukraine, we also remember those who've lost their lives in what is a very pointless war. Please join me. Kiddush. Sorry, on Kaddish. Kaddish on page 159. Yid Kadel, Yid Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, Bialma Divrach, Birutei, Yamlich Malchutei, L'chai Echon, Yom Echon, U'L'chai Jacob, Beit Israel, Ba'gala, U'Zman Kariv, V'Yimaru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah, Mevarach, Le'alam, U'Almei Maya, Yitbarach, V'Yishtabach, V'Yitbaha, V'Yitroman, V'Yitnaseh, V'Yithadah, V'Yitaleh, V'Yitalal, Shemei D'Kodeshah B'Rechu, Le'elan Min Kol B'Rakata V'Shirata, Tushbachata V'Nechmata, Damiran B'Alma V'Imru Amen, Yehei Shlama Rabbah V'Shemaya, V'Chayim Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael, V'Yimaru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Romav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, V'Al Kol Yisrael, V'Al Kol B'nei Adam, V'Yimaru Amen. And it's now my pleasure to invite Joe Brown to bring us a few messages from the board.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And happy Adar. As Adar arrives, joy increases, as we know. Let me begin by saying a few thank yous. Of course, first of all, thank you very much, John, for leading us in our service tonight. And thank you to Brad for your Devar Torah. And thank you also to Chris Bowden, who is our shamus. And I can tell that because I don't see her now. And so that means she's getting the coffee going. So we have that to look forward to. There are several things coming up soon. So I'm going to tell you, first of all, about our upcoming services. Tomorrow, Saturday, February 25th at 10 a.m. is a regular Shabbat service. Our guest service leader tomorrow will be Eleanor Stock, and she will have Kita Bet, our grade 5 class, participating with her, and that will be followed by a potluck lunch sponsored by the parents of grade 5. So please join us for that. Everyone is welcome. Also, next weekend, Friday, March 3rd, is our regular Erev Shabbat service, and we will be welcoming back our Rabbi Pollock, who is back from her little mini sabbatical next Shabbat, and obviously as well for Saturday, March the 4th at 10 a.m. for regular Shabbat service. This Sunday is the last of Rabbi Englander's sessions on the 5 Megillot, each with a different story and a Jewish festival, and you can find the link for that in this week's Shamus. Please join us Sunday 10 a.m. via Zoom for that, as we will be looking at, I believe, the book of Job.
That's right.
Yeah,
yes.
So if you have not yet found your charitable tax receipt for 2002, please double check your inbox. They went out on February 17th, I think it was. And if you're having any trouble finding it, let either our bookkeeper know, books@solel.ca, or you can call the office and we will help you track that down. Join us as well on Tuesday mornings at 7 a.m. for our morning minions. And other things to let you know, just a couple of dates to save. One's getting very close now. Monday, March the 6th. That's like 10 days away or less. It is Purim, and we invite you to come here 6:30 p.m. where we will be having a pizza dinner with some games. I imagine there might be a Hamantashen to be had, and we will have a short service and, of course, our Purim spiel with our famous, how's it, what's the old joke? World famous in Meadowvale, Solel actors. And Of course, Rabbi Pollock will be leading us in that as well. So get working on your costumes for Purim, and we look forward to seeing you there. There's a nominal cost for the dinner, $10 per family or $4 per person, which you can pay at the door. And also, coming up a month after that, if it's almost Purim, that means it's almost Pesach. And we will be having our second Seder, community Seder dinner. It will be in person again this year, first time in 3 years, and we're looking forward to having people join us in person for our community second Seder. We've just announced the menu, and the cost and all of that stuff is also in the Shamas, or you can get that information from Carol at the office. And because we have to let the caterer know how much food to make, we ask that you please register. I'm looking for the date on here, and I can't believe Carol didn't put it here. I think it's something like the 27th of March. So please let us know by then, because it's we're not fasting, so we want to make sure we have enough food. There are other things going on all the time, so please check our website and your inbox looking for the Shamas. Monthly Shamas will be coming out at the beginning of the month. There'll be more things in there. We can look forward to that, and wish you all Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Joel. And now I'm going to invite Brad to lead us in Kiddush, page 163.
Vayhi Erev, Vayhi Boker, Yom HaShishi. And now the whole universe, sky, earth, and all their array was completed. With the seventh day, God had ended the work of creation and rested with all the work completed. And God blessed the seventh day and called it holy. For with this day, God had completed the work of creation. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei beri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodesho v'yahavav ratzon hinkilanu, zikaron l'maaseh bereshit, ki hu yom tehillah l'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki lanu gafarta, ve'otanu kidashta, Mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodecha, v'yahavahu v'ratzon, im altanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha'shabbat.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
And I hope you'll all join us in the Kiddush room. Thank you.